Hello, everyone. Welcome to 10 Minutes Astrology Podcast, the most easy way to learn astrology. I'm Rod Chang.
I am Alejo Lopez. Welcome, everyone.
You make like a funny gesture before we start recording. Then everything went wrong. I was just like, okay, which mode I should in, and I was nearly making a huge mistake by saying I'm Alejo Lopez.
Yeah, because we're gonna talk about, people don't know, but before we start recording, we have a little discussion about what we're going to talk about.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about some nasty stuff perhaps today, some dirty stuff.
Ooh, nasty, dirty. Well, it's a interesting. Honestly, it's a very interesting house. But before that, I think everyone will notice you are in the vest is short, but I'm wearing a long sleeve. So you are in somewhere caliente.
I'm in somewhere caliente, my friend.
Caliente. Yeah.
Amigo. Yeah, I'm in Argentina. I'm in La Pampa. This is where the gauchos are
Okay.
from, in La Pampa. It's the
Okay.
countryside of Argentina. Yes.
Okay. It's so weather is very hot there.
It's very hot today, and it's also very
Yeah.
windy today. Yes.
Okay. When you come back to Europe, you will see that all the leaves is changing the color. It's beautiful color, like green, yellow, red, all together.
Yeah, I will
So
be in shock when I go
yeah.
back to Europe and to the cold. Like,
Yes. So how are you? How are you? Is that busy in back to Argentina?
sorry?
Are you so all okay back to Argentina? All good?
Oh, good.
Busy?
Yes, everything's great. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I always come here because I do some training, some courses, and also to see my
Ah,
family. Yes, so it's great.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
How are
So
you?
you oh well, end of the year for astrologer. It's not just
Yes,
Christmas. It's a crazy busy season because everyone want a chart reading for next year. So
that's true.
usually it's like a Halloween. You're just waiting for Halloween. Once Halloween finish, people start thinking about, oh, I should book a reading for next year. Then the schedule is bam, 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 suddenly fully up in maybe in 10 days. Today I was like a talk with my manager like, could we just stop because I don't have time. I've already full schedule until January, really. January, because
Wow,
I also
great.
have to, yeah, I also have to, go back to Taiwan for holiday. I have holiday to see my family. I haven't seen them for 3 years, so everything pile up and seeing family. So I probably couldn't do too much reading, but you,
I'm still open for readings. I have some time if
mm-hmm,
somebody
mm-hmm,
needs to. And also, as you know, I'm a psychologist. So also if you're looking to start more like a therapy, which involves
mm-hmm,
astrology, I'm also open
mm-hmm.
for that. Yes. So you can
So
get in
if
touch
people want
with
to,
my Cosmos.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So people want to contact you. I was just mentioned that, so they can find you on Instagram at Liminal Cosmos, right?
Yes. Also my webpage is liminalcosmos.com. Yes.
Cool, cool, cool. So, well, today, because since September, we start to learn how to read the chart from, planet in house. Well, although some
Yeah.
astrologer, I have to mention this every time, although some astrologer think house and sign are very similar, all the same, nearly the same. They explain this and that the same. But I think Alejo and we both prefer to see it in different way, which means
Mhm.
more like use the astrological sign to describe quality and style or the character, but
Yes.
use the house to to talk about the areas of life. So
Yes.
that's a slightly different, and to be honest, it's much easier, especially for a beginner.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, because I think the clear definition
More
is very
precise.
important. Yeah, it's very
I agree.
important for the beginner. If not, it's always this and that. They are similar. Then you just like confused.
I
Yeah.
agree.
So today we're going to talk about. We say we're going to talk about something nasty. I usually say talk about something interesting.
Something deeply interesting.
Yeah, that's Aquarius interesting.
We're going to
Or
talk
that
about.
yeah, eighth house. Sorry,
Yes. Go,
eighth house.
go.
So eighth house, well, I mean, most people, to be honest, the definition of today and the definition of ancient time are very different. Should we start with the modern time?
Yeah, I would say yes. Let's start with modern
Okay.
times.
Yeah.
Should I begin? Okay. So the eighth, I mean, to me, they kind of overlap actually, the modern and the traditional one. They're not so. I don't think they're that different. Do you think they're very different?
They are something. There is something different.
There is something different. Okay, so the eighth
Yeah.
house is usually we interpret it in the modern house, in the modern. I know what you mean now. Okay, in the modern.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a modern perspective, we see it as the house of things that are taboo, things that are hidden, that are secretive, that are not so, that you might not talk about them openly. It's the idea of the intimacy, perhaps in the relationship, and the intimacy within yourself. So the intimate relationship with yourself. So usually we put in the eighth house things like sex, which is something that nowadays is becoming more and more open, but usually it's kind of something intimate. It's something that you do behind closed doors. Nowadays it's starting to change, but usually it's something you do.
Do you mean they do it open air now?
Yes. And then also there's this idea of death and renewal. And you know how sex for the French is called la petite mort, it's like the little death, right?
Oui.
There's this idea of like becoming one with the other person. So your boundaries of your own self, they dissolve. And it's this experience of bliss and death at the same time, perhaps in sex. And so we might relate the eighth house also with this idea of how we relate to death, how we relate to the idea of dying and things that have to be regenerated after that. And when we say death, it might not necessarily be literal death. It could be symbolically, right? It could be something that, I mean, like we all die, let's say, when we become adults, from teenagers to adults. Something of us dies in order to generate something new, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to add something or?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. The one thing is I think I want to go to sixth part. It will be interesting because yes, that is something like most people thinking about sex related to eighth house, which is nothing wrong with that. But try to clarify in the ancient time, they probably don't talk about sex in the eighth house. That's the first thing. The eighth house is not related to sex in the ancient time. Especially, I think you and I, we both learned the Harari, and then a few of our Harari astrologers friends always remind us, when you do Harari, the sex question is not in eighth house because the eighth house is related to death. And that is very clearly, so things are different. So it's like when we talk about the modern astrology, yes, you can talk about sex, you can talk about intimacy, but when you talk about that in the ancient way, you're probably not going to talk about it. Another thing I like it is about the people talk about inheritance and money from other people, inheritance and money from the other people. So that means I like that concept in the ancient astrology is the second house is your money. First house is you, second house is your money, seventh house is another person, and eighth house is their money.
Yes, other people's money. I like it also. I like that concept a lot. Yes. And from that, we get the idea of inheritances. It's like the money that is not yours, but suddenly becomes yours. And also we get the idea of taxes and bank loans, this kind of money who is it from, right? Is it yours? Is it somebody else? It's kind of sometimes in between, right? And, with that, when I have to explain this, I always say, when we're talking about inheritance, like the first thing that we think about is like, okay, I don't know, lands or money, like what you're going to inherit, apartment and these kinds of things. But remember, this is the eighth house. There's something mysterious about it. And when we talk about inheritances, we're also talking about emotional inheritance. We're talking about spiritual inheritance, psychological inheritance. So it's not just about the money. There's something else. And this actually relates to some feelings, some ideas that we had in the second house, because the second house, we said it was resources, but we also said it was the way that we value ourselves, how we find worth for ourselves. So I always feel like the eighth house is, what do we think other people value in ourselves? What are other people's values? What are other important people that we have in our life? What are their values, and how we adapt to them, how we react to them?
Yeah, so it is very, very interesting in this concept of eighth house. It's not just because most people, when they talk about eighth house, they're just scared and or frightened. But sometimes there's a deep meaning in this place, and you need to dig out. You need to dig out. Is that area of your life you need to unpack. It's like I to be honest, I'm not. Of course, I think I would take eighth house very seriously. Not think it's an easy place, but as I have a personal planet in the eighth house, so for me it's like a pretty important place. I take it super seriously, and I think every time it's like you open a gift, one layer after another. It's like a Russian dough or like an onion, one layer after another, and you keep digging in. And I like that interesting concept of the eighth house is you keep digging and you keep, and it's like what do you say about you talking about a death? It's not just the physically death. It's not death of life. First, in astrology, when you're going to judge, we usually don't do that. When you're going to judge about death, some people going to die or something, we usually don't do that. If you have to, you need a lot. You need to take it very seriously, and you need a lot of a factor altogether. Then you can say that. We don't usually
it's
do
very
that.
important.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah. Go on.
No, I mean, it's very important because some people may have the sun in the eighth or the moon in the eighth, and then they think that it means they're going to die. They're going to die soon or something. What's going to happen when I die? And they get so stressed about it. And it doesn't mean it's not like that. It means that you're going to go through a series of crises and transformations in order to discover who you are. But it might not mean that you're going to die young or anything. You might live 100 years. Who knows? Yes.
Yes, and that is kind of a eighth house things. We should take it very seriously. But sometimes people say talking about eighth house usually is like obscure and also like some very challenging situation. So to unpack this today, I want to suggest we read a interesting chart, because this person, I think everyone, well, you don't know him, but you definitely hear about him. That would be very interesting to talk about his chart. Okay, let me share the chart. Wait. Here we are. Today, our person is Albert Einstein. And then we choose him because, well, he got a very interesting planet in eighth house.
Yes. So he has Jupiter in Aquarius in the eighth, right? If we look at Jupiter, we ask the question, how do I find purpose in life? What gives me a sense of meaning? And for everyone it's different. And, if he has Jupiter in Aquarius, it means that he finds meaning in an erratic way, an intellectual way, a smart, different way, perhaps a creative way. Maybe he needs to believe in something different than most people believe in. He needs to find his own truth, something like that. And because it's in the eighth house, I would say that to find meaning, he needs to go to the depths of things. He needs to sink into the profundity of things. And he might even find some kind of worth and value there because it's the eighth house. So there might be this sense of expansion when going into critical areas that need to be re-examined, that need to be changed, that need to be questioned, that need to die perhaps in order to be reborn, right? And that's how he finds an expansion.
The things you say about the going to the dangerous place or the expansion just remind me one thing. the story I love most about Einstein, and then just because while you're talking about that, and I look at the Jupiter in the 8th house, 27 Aquarius, then I have to tell you, I always remember that sentence because he was talking. He is a physicist, and then and he's talking about black hole. He's talking about black hole, astrophysics, and he's talking about black hole. He said one very very famous sentence is this. He say black hole are where God, Jupiter, black hole, 8th house, are where God divided by zero.
Ah, wow.
Aquarius, Jupiter, God divided by zero in 8th house. So it's very interesting. Is that he is saying if you want to know about a black hole, everything you divide by one is one. You divide by two is a half. But if you divide by 0.1, you can multiply. And if you divide by 0, 0, 1, 0.01, you get 2 0 behind. If you divide by 0, that means 0, 0, 0, 0, then you have an infinity possibility.
Yeah, exactly. That's very Jupiter in Aquarius.
That was like, when I hear that, I was like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
I'm a crazy fan about black hole. I want to study the black hole in astrology.
Going to
I
start the
think
Black Hole in Astrology podcast.
I should, yeah, I love it. And then the one of definition of black hole, I use this one. So there is a potential infinity possibility if you have the symbol of black hole in the chart important position. That we will talk about that maybe interesting, maybe like a astro night life or something. That will be fun. Yes.
Yeah, it could be fun. I'm also thinking about the idea how he discovered a new law. Like Jupiter is relentless being, and he discovered a new order, a new way to understand the world, which was completely different, radically different. It completely changed the way we approach reality.
Exactly.
And it made us, and it was talking about something that's so invisible, which is the 8th house, something that was super hidden, which is the law of relativity, right? And it changed everything.
Yeah, that is a super interesting. So we have this kind of, it's not easy to understand a house, but I hope today our, example will make you understand a house is not just a fear, but it's also how you to see something crisis and something about the darkness or something you don't know, some mysterious things are in the 8th house. Yeah. So apart from this, should we do a exercise? Should we give a exercise?
Of course we should. The only way to learn astrology is to practice.
Yes.
So I would say, as we did Jupiter in the 8th, I would say, why don't people do, let's say, the moon and the sun, the two luminaries?
Ooh.
So what is the difference? What is the difference between the two luminaries? Remember, the moon is something that you need, something that you crave in order to feel safe. The sun is something that you're trying to learn to become that, right? So it's like a path to take, the sun. So if the sun is in the 8th, the path might be through the 8th house. If the moon is in the 8th, something about your basic needs are connected to that. I'm not going to give you any more hints. You have to practice.
Yes, and you will find out it's not that terrible. Something is serious and something it's not easy or light-hearted, but it could be very important and supposed to be like for example, I have another son in 8th house. I'm not dead. And I love astrology. One part of astrology is my son in 8th house. That how I unfolded. Exactly. That's why I'm interested in black hole. It's true, and it's also in Aquarius.
You see?
Yeah. Wow. So interesting. I like to talk about 8th house, and I think it is pretty interesting place. But we need time to dig out, time to unpack it. Well, we really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Today we're talking about planets in 8th house. If you have any questions or feedback, please send us message to the app AOA UK on the Telegram app, or send us email to the aoa.inquiry@gmail.com. before we say goodbye, I have to remind you, well, on the 26th of the November, we have a webinar talking about the Pluto in Aquarius, because the next year in March, there's a Pluto in Aquarius and starting in move into Pisces, a huge important change. So we organize a 4 webinar with 8 different astrologers. So in November 26th, we have Dr. J. Lee Lehman and Mandela Clay, and then 17th December, we have Lynn Bell and our friend Fernanda Paiva. And then on the 14th of January, we have Darby Costello and Alejo. And also the 25th of February, we will have Christy Skinner and Liam McCarthy. So this is a very interesting webinar. We have a different, different generation and a different voice, different view, and we will have this interesting discussion. If you like, please just, I will share the link here, and please enroll with us, and you will understand what we can do when Pluto in Aquarius and Saturn in Pisces. Well, thank you for listening to today's podcast. Well, see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.